Hello everyone, welcome back to Crimson Gray, Dusk and Dawn. Let's go ahead and continue. After the incident, Lizzie spent a while sorting through her remaining thoughts. She had completely filled up one notebook, so she started a second and took it with her to boring classes. Math wasn't boring, but she did find herself running her fingers over the edge of the notebook as she worked. Later, for now, she would finish the requirement. Lizzie didn't mind math. It was straightforward, free of judgments. Though she didn't understand her professor's talk about its elegance and beauty, it didn't seem incomprehensible to her. He was alright for a non-John person. After class, she floated across campus to return home. That annoying couple tried to engage her in conversation again, but she was able to make polite small talk without committing to anything and keep on her way without wasting too much time. Then she arrived home and found John looking at her notebook. Her focus condensed down to a single point, flickering over everything. His posture, his eyes, the exact set of his mouth, the speed at which he looked up toward her. Once, such thing would have been terrifying. It still made her scared that she might have gone too far this time, added doubt to his mind and ruined their relationship. And he did have a concerned look on his face, so there would be no simple, easy solution. Lizzie, are these things you thought that you can tell me? What? No, not at all. Okay, I do believe you. Have you been keeping notebooks like these as long as we've been together? She squirmed a little at that, her desire to smooth things over and make him happy warring with her desire to be completely honest with him. I had books like these a long time ago. But no, I only started again recently. That's the only one. Other than the new one I just started. Did something happen to make you more stressed? Is it something I've done? There was real pain in his eyes, and Lizzie hated herself for a brief moment. She'd caused him more pain, just that she'd sworn to herself that she would never do again. But her John never rushed to judgment, and he was strong. Even if he was often sad and she longed to protect him, their relationship had been through more intense things. This would be the end. Lizzie carefully sat down opposite him. It definitely isn't anything you did, John. And it isn't anything specific. I've just been a little anxious lately. I was worried the speech might be more of a problem. I can understand that. He kept leafing through the notebook, leaving Lizzie to squirm uncomfortably. It represented her true thoughts, but some of them felt a little awkward under his gaze. She couldn't tell what he was thinking. The fact ate her up inside until she couldn't hold it back anymore. You don't hate me, right? Nothing in the notebook scares you. John looked up at her in astonishment. A moment later he moved forward to embrace her. And though that was wonderful, it was his honest surprise at her question that meant the most. He had just been paranoid. There had been no need to fear. Oh, Lizzie. Of course I wouldn't hate you. I just said that you were stressed and felt like you couldn't tell me. He wrapped an arm around her and pulled her so that they sat side by side, and pulled the notebook into his lap. When I read these, I mostly just see you. This is who you are. And I can feel your love for me on every page. Well, that's very nice, John. Thank you. Turning the page to one of her drawings of killing Smith, his lips twitched in a bit of a smile. These are, I don't know, cute. I've seen you murderous, Lizzie, and this is different. Playful. If this helps you release your feelings, I think it's healthy. Oh, John, I should have known you would understand. I'm not perfect, but I'm always here and I want to understand you. Which is why I had to ask. Is it really nothing? Is there a reason you've been more stressed lately? Is it things like the girl in your psych class? Lizzie sighed and leaned against his chest, considering. It was a difficult question, not just because she had to think about what the best answer would be, but also because she wasn't entirely certain herself. In her mind, her thoughts all flowed together. Speaking with them made them feel clearer, but it wasn't always easy. Ask him to help with dealing with stressors. John, there are a lot of things that make me really anxious. I'm sometimes afraid to tell you about them. Really? You feel that way? It isn't all just idle fears, John. I don't like seeing you near other girls, even if nothing is going on. Even if they're married and lesbians and you would never do anything. I don't like it. Okay. I'll stay out of situations that make you uncomfortable as much as possible. Just tell me when you're uncomfortable, okay? Okay, John. Maybe that was a bad decision. She eagerly leaned into his embrace, filled with warmth. Maybe it would be easier this way. She had held back many thoughts, but he had just given her permission to share them, and that she could keep him safe more easily. But as warm as things were between them, Lizzie felt a bit of hesitance. When she looked at his face, she saw something shift and realized that there was something less pleasant. He wanted to bring up. Had something in the notebook upset him? Her heart began hammering in her chest. There is one thing we need to talk about, though. I don't like... this page, for example. Lizzie blinked in surprise as she scanned it quickly. There's a page of dense writing where she talked about him, largely about her love for him and many other things. What could be amiss there? Do you always write pronouns for me with a capital letter? Of course, John. You're not like any other boy. You're the only person for me. I'm glad you love me, but I don't know about this. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it. What? Why not? She stared at him, hiding the true dismay from her face. Inside she was panicking. Usually John was so calm and steady. She loved understanding more about him, and she actually felt confused. It always terrified her. Forced her to wonder where she was somehow drifting away from him forever. I know how intensely you feel things, but this just feels like a little much. I want you to be my partner, Lizzie. I don't want you to worship me. But John deserves it. You're wonderful, and I love you with my whole heart. I know that. But since I love you too, I have to be honest with you. This worries me a little bit. This capitalized version of me, is that really me? I'm almost afraid all this is for someone else that represents me, but isn't me in truth. No, it isn't like that at all. She clutched into her, his head against her chest while she gripped one hand on his hair. But due to her dismay, she began to understand that thought upset her a little. And the idea that she might be worshipping some false form of him was terrifying. But she could understand it. John was still her John. If I just refer to you like any other boy, it doesn't feel right. Like I'm saying they're the same as you. And I would never betray you like that, John. Lizzie, I think I can understand that. A little. But can you understand me too? I do, John, I do. She stopped gripping him so tightly, and let him pull back slightly. They stared into each other's eyes for a while and both smiled. Nothing that had been said changed their love for each other, and they both knew it. Lizzie leaned forward to kiss him gently. John was being too humble, but she wouldn't argue over that with him. She understood why he was upset, and she didn't mean to suggest anything like that. Certainly not to him, and now she needed to avoid suggesting it to herself. Maybe she could accomplish the same thing another way. It was only her fear that she was betraying him that made her think that way. She had no fear if she loved him even more utterly and totally than she ever had before, then it wouldn't matter if she capitalized the word or not. But she wasn't there yet. Lizzie felt peaceful enough to quiet her thoughts and just enjoy kissing him for a while. And kissing him. When they finished, John pulled back and smiled gently at her. Well, this has been quite a conversation. If you want to take a break, I'd understand, but if you want to keep talking, I'm here for you. All I want is for you to hold me a little longer, okay? Of course. He held her just like that for a long time. Even afterward, when they got their textbooks and began reading, he stayed close, letting her get rest against him so they were always touching. By the time they were ready to go to bed, Lizzie no longer felt nervous about him discovering her notebooks. But she also had a feeling that she wouldn't need them anymore. Life improved after their conversation. Lizzie overflowed so much positive energy that she was constantly visiting John for extra kisses and showering affection over him. His reaction was more subtle, but she could feel that it had made a difference to him. Though Lizzie wrote in her notebook occasionally, she didn't take it with her anymore and didn't feel too much need for it. In fact, when Aaron invited them to a party with his friends, Lizzie felt so free of stress that she didn't mind them going. John had gone home a while ago, after making a few social rounds. She thought he was actually glad to leave, since parties like this weren't his sort of thing, even if they had lots of people he liked under other circumstances. Part of her had wanted to go home with him as soon as he had left, but he noticed that she was busy with another conversation and said she could catch up later. It's you, your cleavage is not showing. Are you the same person? How's Rose? At the moment she was talking to a girl named Rose. She was always hanging out with Aaron and they acted as if they might be dating. Though Lizzie also had a strong intuition that wasn't quite the case. It didn't matter to her, so she didn't pursue it. What mattered was that Rose showed no interest in John, and she didn't like how judgmental their psychology class was either. No alcohol at all, huh? Not judging. I was just wondering if it was a personal commitment or something. Lizzie was drinking water from her cup. Though she hadn't thought about it, she knew the exact reason. Becoming intoxicated reduced her ability to enjoy John's presence and slightly decreased her combat potential. This was to be avoided at all costs. It's just not to my taste. That's cool. Honestly, some drinks taste so shitty, I wonder if people really like it. Or if society just convinces everyone they need to like it because it's refined or whatever. I hadn't thought about that before. Society convinces us of all kinds of things, like you decide weddings should be these obscenely elaborate performances, and wearing white is just a vestige of an absurd older custom. I was hoping to wear white for our wedding. Normally, Lizzie would have followed the tone of the conversation and not offered any contradiction, since that would lead to annoyances. One reason Rose was acceptable was that she didn't get offended when people disagreed with her, which meant Lizzie didn't have to waste energy on such things. It's 100% fine, if that's what you want. I just think some people only stumble into it because that's what society expects. But you're about the last person to expect you to be that way, Lizzie. Really? Yeah, it's pretty obvious you don't care about what other people think. I admire that. Oh, thank you. Lizzie gave her a smile that wasn't faked. One of the few real smiles she'd given to anyone other than him. In the old days, it would never have happened. But being together with John was so wonderful, she felt like she had an excess of happiness. And to share with people who were acceptable company when he wasn't there even. Their conversation didn't continue for too long after that though, because several of Rose's other friends showed up. She didn't try to press Lizzie to join them, so Lizzie was soon alone again. That was fine with her, though she immediately began to consider her exit route. Best to go home to him. But before she could finish, someone else ambled up beside her. Enjoying yourself, Lizzie? Sure. Thanks for inviting us. No problem, glad to hear it. You two are hard to read. Really? Well, you seem to understand each other on a deeper level, and it's nice to see, honestly. I wish I had a relationship that close. Of course, I don't have one at all right now. Oh, I thought you and Rose. Aaron stopped for a full second, giving her a bizarre expression. He narrowed his eyes as if uncertain if she was being serious. Lizzie, do you really not know I'm gay? And he had been laughing and talking with John earlier, and she remembered that he had slapped John on the back, and his hand lingered too long. And not only was he single, they just said that thing about wanting a relationship like theirs. No, I hadn't noticed. Aaron, you hussy, put that shirt back down. Huh, got that look in your eyes. Damn, Lizzie. If you were in anyone else, I'd almost be offended. Oh, I'm just upset I didn't notice. I hope you find a man you love and you two get married. Okay. I'm not trying to have a chip on my shoulders, just, the Midwest is a pretty conservative place. I mean it though. It took a supreme effort of will for Lizzie to finish the conversation without giving the wrong impression. Such a thing would have been impossible for her as she was 3 years ago, but thanks to John she could do a better job of looking outside herself. Though it couldn't touch anything within her. She could intellectually understand what Aaron was saying to her. People disapproving of him was very similar to people who might disapprove of her, so her reaction didn't need to be faked. Though he was sharper than most, she didn't think Aaron sensed any of the turmoil inside her. When he finally left, though, she was relieved. How had she missed something so important? Maybe Aaron was a good person, but most weren't. Lizzie Ann thought she could focus on nothing but her relationship with John. And now she realized that her focus had given her blind spots. Oh. For the people she sees as targets, they all look very provocative and seductive. So now Aaron's a target. And Rose is normal looking because she's not. There were other consequences too. Lizzie presumed that John knew and he was paying more attention to such things. She had been acting so close to Rose early in the party. Had some part of him seen it in which she might be interested in anyone other than him? She didn't fear that John would feel jealous. That wasn't his nature. But he might find some way to doubt his self-worth. Maybe wondering if he wasn't enough for her or something else equally absurd. At his best, he would understand it was false. But if he was depressed... Lizzie realized that instead of taking a drink, she was chewing on the rim of her cup hard enough that she tasted plastic. Better than her finger, since she was in public, but still a sign that she needed to pull back and reconsider. Slipping out as soon as she could, Lizzie headed back home, trying to integrate the new information. She had thought that the social understanding she had developed over the years growing up would be more than enough for her to navigate any social interaction. But plainly, she was too narrowly focused on herself and John. That was where her attention should be, of course. But her anxiety was creeping upward again and wouldn't stop until she felt confident in her analytical abilities again. That night, Lizzie decided not to write anything in her notebook. Instead, she just nestled up against John and held him, which he gladly reciprocated. It didn't take her too long to fall asleep after that. The days passed freely enough and they drifted closer to the end of the year. No threat materialized, but not much changed either. Lizzie was happy for each precious day though and clung closer to John. Things were easier now. She only wrote in her notebook occasionally, and often showed him what she'd written. Classes remained tolerable and she didn't have any problems with obnoxious classmates or other people. Despite all the attention surrounding the speeches and the potential overhaul of the FDCA, everything just stalled in committees. Aaron and a few others kept campaigning, but interest overall died down. There had been a little tension surrounding Aaron this group. John wanted to be involved more. Though Lizzie tried her best to hide her anxieties, he still noticed that she was uncomfortable when they were around others. And so, wonderful person that he was willing to withdraw. So they'd spent much of their time together, which was bliss. It could work that way forever, couldn't it? John was an introvert anyway, and she could provide everything he might possibly need. That would be ideal, but Lizzie wasn't certain. It was unfortunately impossible for them to be together every second of every day. And despite her best efforts, she was not perfect. Maybe it would be better to develop some kind of secondary defenses. But that would mean giving him up to others temporarily and other unacceptable risks. Lizzie pondered everything she had chopped up the vegetables for that day's meal. Enjoying the knife work while she thought John was casually reading on the couch, and smiled when she felt her gaze. Ah, this was bliss. Unfortunately, a moment later, someone pounded on the door. Yo, I won't interrupt you lovebirds, but you want to turn on the news. If you said that, it must be something significant. Lizzie wasn't sure exactly what they had said, but John had spoken to Aaron about needing more private space. Covering for her, of course. Which was wonderful though, Lizzie felt slightly uncomfortable about the whole thing. John and Mesh had set everything up smoothly. Aaron was already moving on, leaving them to glance at one another. After a pause, John got up and flipped the channels until he got the one they wanted. Worst rampages in American history. We have just received a report that one of the students in critical care has unfortunately passed away, making the total to 11 dead and 2 wounded. Lizzie moved to the couch beside John in a flash, eyes fixed on the television even though she wasn't completely certain why. The news was filled with reports of murders, of course, but the ratio immediately caught her attention. John glanced over to her with a thoughtful look. Why would Aaron call us about this in particular? The facts of the incident are still coming on, and one of the most basic facts must have been relevant. That's a good point. Maybe. Scrolling at the bottom now, I recognize that name. It's a town with a major Koitic factory, just like their hometown. They didn't need to say. Distracted by the exact reports of the violence, Lizzie had not noticed that fact. She didn't know the name in any case. It made her heart warm to think that the two of them complemented one another, but she was still in a state of rigid alertness. With the lull in updates, the news program was bringing on guests. There was a Koitek representative, which was incredibly suspicious, even though he was only making a statement of condolences. After that, an academic was brought on. He was introduced as an expert of violent killings, which immediately attracted interest. After pointless introductory questions, things got more interesting. Until the police decide to release direct evidence, is there anything else we can determine about the crime? What's notable is how few were injured compared to those killed. Regardless of the weapon used, that's an unusual statistic. And what does this tell us? It might indicate that it's a crime of passion. The individuals killed were targeted specifically, not randomly. Those hospitalized were severely injured, after all. But what could cause a student to go on such a rampage? Well, emotions are always strong in high school. No, that wasn't right. The death-to-injury ratio had caught our attention as well, and the expert had identified it too. But he was wrong about that. Lizzie didn't want to jump to conclusions, but this is horrible. But do you think it could? Breaking news. The police have released video footage captured during the tragedy to the media. Children and sensitive viewers may not wish to watch the following clip. Neither of them blinked. The news switched to grainy footage from a security camera on an empty hallway for a few moments still. Then the student began crawling across the floor, leaving his trail of blood, broken arm, cut to the intestines designed to cause pain instead of death. She couldn't see the student's eyes, but she was sure there was animal fear in them. He was panicking, just trying to get away. A girl appeared on camera. She moved casually but surprisingly fast, swinging a baseball bat idly in one hand. The student gave a mangled squawk and tried to crawl faster. It didn't matter. The girl lunged forward and brought the bat down onto his head. Though the blow was pixelated, Lizzie could practically see the spray of blood. The girl stared down at the body for a moment, face unclear. Then she finally looked up. A mad grin on her face. With a peal of laughter, she lunged away, vanishing from the screen. For a few seconds, the footage was only the corpse sound, the sound of her laughter. Then it cut out abruptly. Only then did Lizzie realize that she was on her feet and holding her knife. Her reaction had been instinctive and instantaneous. John looked a little concerned and touched her arm. Lizzie. You're right, She sat down on the couch beside him and carefully set her knife a few inches out of easy reach. Normally she might be ashamed of herself, but her heart was still beating too rapidly. Lizzie did her best to focus on the broadcast. Remind everyone that the suspect was killed by police at the entrance to the school. Her identity and the identities of the victims are still being withheld for the sake of the families, but if anyone has information concerning... she died. John turned the volume to low buzz, then looked toward her. His eyes were hard and serious in a way that normally excited her, but given the circumstances, she was too tense. I know it's early to jump to conclusions, but she was like me. Yes. The words felt strange in her mouth, though. This random girl couldn't possibly be like her. Not any more than the other girl in their hometown. She didn't know of another way to say it, though, and she trusted John would understand. Not like you, but the way she moved. Don't think that was natural, do you? No. She used more strength than a normal girl when she swung her bat, and she was almost as fast as me. In the movements they'd seen during the video at least, which might not reflect her full speed, Lizzie's again had a strong urge to eliminate the girl, despite the fact that she was already dead and couldn't possibly harm John. Mrs. Smith said there was nothing sinister about it, just experience gone wrong. For this to happen here too. Remember the meeting? Koitek prefers to rush through testing with multiple simultaneous experiments. Oh, good memory. I didn't realize you were listening that closely. Lizzie smiled at them, a little of the tension draining from her. Yes, she was still here beside her John. There was no threat. She needed to quiet her instincts. That didn't mean that they were safe, though. There could be much broader threats due to changes that would happen. She's certain that she knew much of the information that would come out of the incident after that. It looked like John's thoughts had gone to a similar direction, judging from his frown. Do you think this will be the end for Koitek? Will this be what they need to bring reform? To her surprise, John leaned against her and breathed this painful sigh. With emotions running high, she hadn't realized how unhappy he looked. No doubt she was thinking of many unpleasant events. I don't know. Maybe it will bring down Koitek, maybe it will just make things worse, we don't know. Oh, John. She held him closer and stroked his hair gently. Fortunately, he did seem to lighten slightly under her ministrations. They sat there together for a while, watching as the news continued. Meaningful information was coming slower now. That didn't stop the broadcast from trying to stretch things. And since new information did come out occasionally, she felt like she needed to keep watching. Though it shouldn't have gone to her, Lizzie found herself more and more anxious as they continued. What would Koitek do if they felt threatened? Could this be a part of some more larger scheme? Even if not, what would happen to them? The incident with her and John had been suppressed and gotten to no media attention, but this was such a public event. Horror slowly crept up within her mind as she imagined an army of Mrs. Smiths swarming schools around the country, giving out more medication to prevent another such incident. Parents would probably welcome it. She understood human psychology that much. Someone like her might have been targeted. Worse, someone like John would have left chance. Lizzie realized that she was chewing on one of her fingers, hard not to draw blood only when John gently pulled it from her mouth. It will be okay, Lizzie. Whatever happens, we'll get through this together. She nodded and then hugged him tightly, taking refuge in his embrace. He was right, of course, but only if they devoted their full attention to analyzing the potential risk. They stayed together for a while longer. It seemed like the broadcast had even less new information now. Despite all the emotion, Lizzie found herself strangely blank. She wasn't sure if she wanted to forget this had happened or take precautions. Unfortunately, it seemed that John was similarly uncertain, glancing there just then. So, what do you want to do now? What do I want to do? Maybe search for more information? Or... Maybe we forget about it for now. We need a break. A full story will probably be out tomorrow, so there's no sense wearing ourselves out over it now. Probably right, Lizzie. I was getting tired of that news graphic anyway. John turned off the television and returned to her, and she happily slid into his lap and lay against his chest. They spent the rest of the night just quietly talking, staying close while they worked. John had been too upset about the incident, but she was happy to take his mind off the serious subject for a little while. Letting the matter go made Lizzie anxious, though. She didn't bite her finger while he was watching, but her mind began to cycle through plans and possibilities. As she fell asleep, Lizzie tried to ponder what this would mean for them. All she was sure about was that she wanted to face it at his side.